Well, here we are in the University of the Trees. This is my temple. This is where I learn everything from the trees.
What do you learn from them?
I learn to transmute. I learn to transform. I learn to be still. I learn to listen to the roots of my being. Huh?
I don't see it.
You don't see it?
No, I just see I just see a bunch of trees. It's like I don't feel any connection to them.
But they're people. They're living organisms. They have personalities. They speak. You have to listen.
I mean, I have an idea of what you're saying, but I don't have a feeling of what you're saying.
Well, in order to get the feeling, you have to slow down and sit beneath the tree and put your back up against the tree and let the tree be an antenna for your spine. And let that light come down through your spine and fill your body with light.
Sounds a little out there, but...
It sounds a little out there?
Maybe we'll try it.
Okay.
We'll try it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love you, God. I love you, God. I love you, God. The spiritual path is a very dangerous path. It takes tremendous courage. Mm-hmm. And it's not something that you can do in a workshop. It's not a hobby. It's not a casual thing. It is a shedding of layer after layer of concepts and of our ego. Go take a long walk through the graveyards. Oh, wow, she was 12 years old. Wow, she made it to 86. Wow, this one only made it to 42. But here I will go. Where and what is it that you're about? You have got to get on it because life is moving quickly. You come to live with reality, or reality will come and live with you. Old age, sickness, and death is coming. It is coming. Now, while you're strong, while you're young, while you have the opportunity, go deep into the inner world.
Go deep into the inner world. Those words really hit home. When I was in my 30s, I made a difficult decision to give up a career as a criminal defense lawyer to focus more on my inner life. Criminal law had been a lifelong dream. I grew up in a miserable family where absolutely nothing was fair, so pursuing justice became really important to me. I really loved law, and I felt so proud when I became a lawyer. But there was something else inside me, gnawing at me, pushing me, not so much for success, but simply to be more authentic. After I left law, I began to wrestle with my personal demons in therapy. I spent a long time just working on my stuff and then studied to become a psychotherapist. But just after opening my therapy practice, I became obsessed by a need to write, particularly to write about my own psychological and spiritual journey, both to go deeper on the path and to help other people who are trying to do the same. I spent my days dredging up difficult emotions, and yet I couldn't have been happier. I felt like I'd finally found my true path. 3 years into my writing, I met Bhagavan at a yoga workshop in Toronto. From the moment I cast my eyes on him, he felt like he was somehow part of my sacred blueprint, a kind of déjà vu, a deep sense of familiarity. Yeah, I know he looked like a refugee from the 60s, but I didn't care. What I cared about was substance. His take on Western life through an Eastern spiritual lens was right on. So many spiritual teachers told me to focus on meditation and detaching from my emotions. Bhagavan Das was just the opposite. He threw himself into the emotional world, and as a therapist, this made sense to me. When he chanted, I felt like his energy connected directly with my body and cracked me open. It's hard to put into words. I didn't know how yet, but I knew that he'd come into my life as a kind of guide, someone who would help me to the next level of understanding through the wisdom of his teachings.
Enlightenment isn't something that you so easily can just figure out. You got to feel it in your heart, or it's not real. And we believe that, that's Bhagavan Das's path entirely right there in a nutshell.
There's a difference between someone who's spiritual and someone who's mystical. Someone who's spiritual is still deriving their information from others, from texts, from teachers. A mystic is going deep into his or her own reserves to find out truth, and that's where Bhagavan Das goes.
He just told me the truth about who I am in a way that I could really hear it. And I've heard it before many times, but I really heard it when he told me.
Bhagavan Das was born Michael Riggs in Laguna Beach, California in 1945. He grew up in suburban America during the Eisenhower era to parents who were church-going Episcopalians. As a teenager, he was bored of suburban conformity.
I mean, I had been wanting to get enlightened since I read Alan Watts's book, The Supreme Identity in 1958. I didn't understand a word I read, but I understood that there was something other than what I was now experiencing. Sitting in the Jolly Roger restaurant, drinking coffee and smoking a cigarette. There was something else, and I wanted it.
One day, he saw a Life magazine photograph of Allen Ginsberg standing in the Ganges River. He just knew he had to get into that river. In 1963, at the age of 18, he traveled to India on a spiritual journey that was to last almost 7 years. In India, Riggs hungered for spiritual enlightenment. He studied with the Beatles' famous guru, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. He meditated obsessively, 21 hours a day, 2 years alone in a cave, a month in the cremation grounds, surrounded by the ashes of the dead, living only with the clothes on his back and a human skull for a food bowl.
I went down to the river, and I sat at the river all day, and I watched people worshiping the river. And I thought, this is what Hindus do. They worship dogs, cats, the river, people, each other, money, everything. They worship everything. It's like so cool. I never thought of that before. Like everything is holy. And that blew my mind, right? I never knew where I was going. I didn't care where I was going. It didn't make any difference because everything was holy. And everywhere was holy and everyone was holy. So I got the Hindu zeitgeist.
He saw God everywhere, but was fascinated by Kali, the goddess of creation and death. His most profound awakening occurred at the feet of the now-deceased Hindu saint Neem Karoli Baba, affectionately called Maharaji, whose very presence opened Rig's heart and transformed his consciousness. Neem Karoli Baba initiated Riggs as a sadhu, or holy man, and renamed him Bhagavan Das, which means servant of the master. While in India, Bhagavan Das met an American named Dr. Richard Alpert, a Harvard psychology professor who had been fired for doing research on the effects of LSD, along with his infamous Harvard associate, Timothy Leary. Bhagavan Das introduced Alpert to Neem Karoli Baba, and Alpert had a life-changing spiritual transformation of his own. He was renamed Ram Dass, meaning servant of God, and later wrote a spiritual memoir and guidebook entitled Be Here Now, based on his experiences in India. Its title was taken from the advice Bhagavan Das gave to Ram Dass to get out of his head, shut up, and just be here now. The book became a counterculture Bible for generations of spiritual seekers, selling millions of copies and helping to bring the wisdom of Eastern spirituality to a wide Western audience. In the book, Bhagavan Das is described as the one who knew. When Bhagavan Das returned to America in 1971, at the age of 25, he was already a spiritual icon. In India, Bhagavan Das practiced a traditional form of devotional singing called kirtan, and back in America, he began a career as a kirtan chanter. His groundbreaking album, Ah, led to Rolling Stone magazine calling him the Jimi Hendrix of chant. He toured with Allen Ginsberg, opened for the Grateful Dead, and was one of the earliest and most influential artists in a well-respected genre of world music. Almost 40 years later, the legacy of Bhagavan Das and his connection to Neem Karoli Baba live on in the West. Mike D. of the Beastie Boys, after reading Bhagavan Das's own autobiography, It's Here Now, Are You?, was inspired to produce and arrange Bhagavan Das's album entitled Now. In his mid-60s, Bhagavan Das continues to be a leading kirtan chanter, touring throughout the world. He also works as an active guru for a number of devotees.
Shiru Charles the road and it Nina Manamukurumadi, Marino Ragabada Bimaladu, Udaya Paltari. Shiru Charles the road and it Nina Manamukurumadi, Marino Ragabada Bimaladu, Udaya Paltari. Udina Danudani.
That's completion.
When he was coming back to Toronto to chant the next year, he agreed to stay at my house.
Boom, man.
Before he arrived, I decided to turn it into a documentary. I felt that what Bhagavan Das had to offer was as relevant today as it ever was in the 1960s, and I was determined to communicate it. I pitched the idea to my best friend, who had also been deeply affected by him. We had never made a film before in our lives, but it just felt like the right thing to do.
It's like
a beauty.
this one.
Yeah. See, we can like we can feel the vibration. You know, we can hear her voice. We can listen to her. We can gather our strength from her. We can let her strength fill our body. Mom, thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you.
Okay, I'm going to put myself up against it, see if I can feel that tree.
Okay,
Yeah?
you gonna do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel the strong vibration. I feel all the power and energy of it. But as I like drop down and breathe deeper into myself and really feel it inside me, I begin to feel like afraid. Like I want to just rest here for a long, long time. And surrender to it, like feel it, be with it. But then I feel this part of me that tells me to retreat from that feeling because that feeling doesn't work with the way that I live my life. So how can I embrace this tree as part of my daily experience in a way that bridges me still to the way that I live in this modern life, right?
You have to breathe deeper. You have to bring the breath down to your stomach. Breathe in your belly now. Imagine that there was a nose in your belly button, and you breathe the tree in from your belly button.
It's like I'm making contact with like some part of me that wants this so bad and has longed for it, but I can't do it. Because I have to get back to work, and I have to get back into my mind.
Well, because you've worshipped the mind. You've bought into this worship the mind trip. You know, what's that about?
My mind is of use to me in this crazy culture, you know?
Right.
I don't know how much this is of use to me in this cultural experience. I feel like I have to duck right out of the culture, and I won't do that. So I need to bridge to it in a way that keeps both alive, right?
Right.
Just not sure how you do that. Yeah, like that's enough, right?
Yeah.
That's
Well,
enough.
that's good.
That's enough,
That was a
right?
lot. And so if you have friends as birds and black squirrels and trees, you got friends everywhere.
But those friends won't pay my mortgage. So we'll stay right there then.
Okay. Oh, my... Where's the water?
It's in the car.
The car? What car?
It's in the car. Put it in the car so it won't be seen when I'm walking with you. You need it when we walk?
Well, I mean, I need to drink so
All right,
I
I'll
can
get it,
talk.
I'll get it.
What
I'll
car?
get it.
Where's your car?
It's right at the end.
Sri Ram, 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 Ram. Look at this mother, man. Look at this beautiful. Look at her divine form. Wow.
Yeah, what do you see when you look at this tree?
Yoni. I see the spread legs of the mother.
Yeah.
You know, with her yoni right there, with like a little pubic hair right there, the little green pubic hair. How beautiful, huh? My path of Agor is worshiping Kali. Kali is the goddess of sex and death. Her main form that I worship her in is the yoni. The yoni is the vagina, because the vagina is the door of life. All of us come from the yoni. The woman is God to me. I worship women. I love women. And it's the easiest way that I can constantly be in the presence of God, because women are everywhere. Ma. I see Ganesha, look. See his eye? His eye is right here, and here's his trunk coming down. And here's his ears coming over here. Om Ganganapatayi Namaha. Beautiful. It's Ganesh reality. That's Ganesh reality.
What does that mean?
Ganesh reality means to see the mystical and to connect through the mundane world. That it's all a metaphor. all our life is a metaphor. That way you're never separate from divine reality. You're always in that moment of connection. So every person you meet is the guru. Every person you meet is giving you the precious teachings that you need to hear at that moment. Huh?
But what happens when you meet people that are seem to be so out of touch with like actualizing all those good, complete, godlike aspects of themselves? How do you see it in those people? The most difficult people.
Yeah, but they're also showing you, they're showing you the nature of aggression. They're showing you the nature of clinging. They're showing you the nature of delusion. They're showing you the three poisons in action. They're showing you how not to be. It's really an alchemy, you know, it's alchemy. It's taking the shadow and finding the light in the darkness. That's what it is. Let's go over here and watch the game. It's the game of life, being played by the light and dark. Huh? You see it? It's beautiful, huh?
It's the real game.
We're the spectators, you know?
Yeah, why can't this be so interesting to me, right? I mean, like, why not, right?
How beautiful.
The movements of the light and...
Exactly, the movements of the leaves, the movements of the light, you know? I think that us white people have really lost our way. We don't know what way is. In fact, we're in our way. And it would be good if we got out of our way so we could find the way. But what we do is we make a big mistake, which is we take other people's ways. Like we go, let's be a shaman, let's drum, let's wear feathers. I'm going to be a Buddhist, I'm going to go to the Zendo. I'm going to be a Tibetan Buddhist, that's even more exciting. Can wear red robes, can do the beads, can do the prostrations. Or I'm going to do Vipassana, or I'm going to go Sufi dancing. I'm a Sufi, wear like a little, you know, hat, like, you know, like cooks wear, like little Sufi hats. It'd be a goofy Sufi. Or you could be a yogi, right? And go do the yoga trip and carry a yoga mat on your back. And then everyone in the street knows that you're a yogi because you have a yoga mat. It's constantly, you know, coding. You're coding over it. You're not finding your way. You're taking other ways that don't really work. Even Indians don't do yoga. No one in India does yoga. They think we're all crazy. Not even yogis do yoga in India. It's an American phenomenon. It's trippy. You know, and people just trip out on Indian culture, right? And so it's not about that. We don't really get Zen. We get Japanese culture. You follow? Because Zen is deep, deep roots. We don't have deep enough roots to get Zen. Because we don't chop wood and carry water, right? We don't live in mountains. We don't jump in cold rivers, right? And so we must search deep in our being and find out what it is. Go on more camping trips. Go out in a tent and sit there for 3 days, right? And feel afraid and cry and feel, and watch the light change, right? And wander around and listen to the birds. I think this is very good. Like, listen to the mother. Listen to your body. What is it telling you? It's very ancient. You know, millions and billions of years in this body. The rivers run through this body. The ocean is in this body. This is the body of light right here that we're all in. And we're all looking to other. And who is other but us? We are other. God is a hard-on. God is sexy. God is juicy. God is here now in your body, in your feelings, in this life. There is no one else but you. You are the deity. You find it in this bone temple here now in this world. This is it. Get going. Don't lose this opportunity. Don't fritter your time away. Walking down Broadway. Get it here. Use the birth for all it's worth. Chima.
Beautiful, Bubba.
Oh, when the Virgin Mary had a little baby, Virgin Mary had a little baby. Virgin Mary had a little baby, and they say that he come from the glorious kingdom. He come down from the glorious kingdom. He come down from the glorious kingdom. So wide you can't get around it. Must come in at the door.
Beautiful, Bubba.
What, honey? I love you.
Love it all.
I love it all too. I love you so much. You are the coolest guy. You really rock, man. You rock my world.
You too.
I know it.
You ready for the train, Bubba Bear?
I'm ready for the train, man. I get to be alone for a few hours.
Yeah, you get to just be with yourself.
I know.
You need
I can
that.
just be with myself. I can
Before
calm
you get
down.
Yep.
I can move all my lustful energy back into my heart. I'm
Including,
sure I can find a babe to hit on the train.
I'm sure at least one.
At least one.
Yeah.
A great ass and a great pair of tits and a nice, tight, juicy yoni that smells like strawberries and whipped cream. Oh, God. Pussy power rules. Because I want that ass in my face.
It's important.
I want 69 as my favorite.
Yeah.
Tits nice, but you know, look at it. Look, quick. Look, right there, dude, right there. Oh, did you see it? Did you put the spool in the closed bag? Okay. Ma, there it is. Woo! Did you see it? Jeff. Woo! Jeff. Tits and ass.
Yeah,
Tits and ass, man. Oh! Blonde bitch. Wow. It took us all day to get to it. I know, what a blessing. Just as we're leaving, a mitzvah in the tunnel. In the tunnel of love. Oh, and hot pink, fuck me pink, pants and top. Oh man. You know who the guru is? The guru is existence. And existence, that girl who we saw under the bridge is existence. That's who I worship.
Sex is the life force beaming through us, bursting through us. It's our experience of wholeness moment to moment to moment. We're always in this exchange of male-female energy, of solar-lunar, inhale, exhale, coming and going.
It's here, everything's there.
Okay, man.
All in there.
Love you.
That's all you need. I love you.
Onward and upward, spirit soldier.
Spirit soldier.
Too, buddy. Keep it going.
Love you. Thank you.
See
I
you.
will.
Love you. Talk soon.
Thank you so much.
We should get off.
Okay, guys, I love you.
We were on the way to the Omega Holistic Center in Rhinebeck, New York, to interview some of his fellow chanters and yogis, both to hear what they had to say about Bhagavan Dass in terms of his significance, but also to help me clarify my own growing uncertainty about his integrity.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty. Okay. So when I'll just go a bit, and then we'll go. Okay. So when he, when we first began to do this with him, I had a very kind of, had like a philosophy towards how I was going to deal with the parts of him that are known to be very regressed, chasing of young women, the stories he tells them to try to, get them to hook up with him, all these things. I had it in my mind that I wasn't going to throw out the holy man with the bathwater. It's like he has some ascended parts, he had some other parts, and I somehow had convinced myself that
these kind of regressed parts weren't really so much regressed, they were the ways he reacted. Like he could go so deep and it was so hard to hold it that he had to have these kind of infantile places in himself where he could go because it was too hard to be there, right? That it was like a reaction away from his calling or something. And I liked that he was imperfect, right? Like I liked that he was like just one step ahead of me instead of like, you know, like the thing about him is he will invariably disappoint you if you try to project the God thing onto him, right? And I liked that he was just in the same groove as me, and he could just like, in this culture, it's so hard to open, it's so hard to get subtle, it's so hard to get out of distraction, and he could like crack open, you know, just a little bit more than the rest of us, and I felt like I could learn from that, instead of from a guru that I projected to be God that was like way above me and was just not human, and would make me like lazy, you know? But, you know, ever since the filming of it, I've begun to have a harder time dealing with his relationship to young women, and I've begun to feel as though it's really not like so much a reaction away from something, but it's actually just some part of him that hasn't developed yet.
Gopala Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya.
You know, one of the struggles in this documentary with Bhagavan Das, because of his various proclivities and supposed or so-called moral failings, is trying to reconcile like the, you know, the realized guru, the notion of the realized guru, with a teacher or a guru who's quite imperfect. Do you have anything to say about that?
I absolutely do. If you look at Ken Wilber's model of integral development, there really are different aspects of human development. One can have an incredibly profound and deep spiritual connection. Honestly, really, I mean, and that connection is whole, it's beautiful, there's nothing failing in the power of that connection, and yet psychologically, as an ego, can be quite underdeveloped. And those are different forms of development. This one does not invalidate this one, nor does this one invalidate, they're just different. I'll tell you really a funny story about a man named many years ago. He used to be out in the circuit, and I'd kind of follow him around. He'd leave a trail everywhere we go. He would have sexual relations with the women, and people would be all upset, and they wouldn't want to invite him back. And I bumped into him one day in an airplane, and you know, we were friends. I said, hey, you probably know this, but you know, you're leaving kind of this trail. Nothing to me, but you know, people are saying things about you. And he looks at me and says, it's all true, and they don't know the half of it. I love women. I love women. I love making love to women. It's a great thing. And that was a lovely moment, because what I saw was the problem was the imposition of a set of values on him that was not who he was. He never claimed to be anything different. We live in a culture which is very uptight around sexuality. So there's a whole host of issues.
Does a guru have to be realized to be helpful?
I think realization doesn't have much to do with that stuff. I don't think they have a choice. I don't think they say, okay, I'm going to be pure now. You know, you don't have that choice. You just who you are, being who you are for a blink of an eye, and then your body's gone, you know.
But is Bhagavan Das a guru?
He's occasionally referred to himself as a guru when he's spoken to me. And I don't know what to do with this chasing of 21-year-old women thing, and I don't know if there's really anything I have to do with it.
I don't think you have to do anything. I don't think... I mean, you know, the only choice you have is going to be from your mind anyway. The only way you can connect with your guru is through the heart. Everything else is rubbish. You know, actually, the only doorway into the master is through the heart. And if that connection's happening with you and Bhagavan Das, you're home. That's it. And if your mind is going, then you're not quite home. You know, there's still some more. The thing with masters is they seduce us, you know. They're always seducing. You think you're my disciple, come a little closer, you know. Come closer to the fire. And one day you're just out in the wind and the guru is gone. And that's his job over. You know, so Bhagavan Das is probably just seducing you out into the wild and unknown cosmos, into the chaos.
humanity.
I think it would be unwise to place any of the chanting artists in a guru or spiritual teacher position. All of us are embracing this particular teaching because we need it. We're immersing ourselves in this energy because we need it, not because there's some service that's to be done to humanity. So it would be really wrong, I think, to think that anyone who's teaching this spiritual stuff has mastered it. You know, I can't get on that bandwagon. I think the people who are teaching it think they're evolved souls and they have something to offer, but they're like everybody. They have stuff to work through, and that's okay.
Personally, as a woman in the field of yoga, to be frank, and I think that this documentary is meant to be frank, this is a place where a lot of people come into it quite vulnerable and open, and I do think that you have to be very careful of your power in this community and your influence, and it is very easy, even if it's not deliberate, to take advantage of women who might be more vulnerable and who might be more susceptible to that kind of attention. They may have never received that kind of attention themselves growing up. Finally, suddenly they're in this community that's about love and sensuality. And when you have a man who's a real strong visual character within that community, it's really easy to get drawn to that. It becomes really Bhagavan Dass's yoga, his responsibility to decide how he's going to draw that line. I think some of the choices that he's made in regards to women, it's, I'm going to say suspect, it compromises him as an adult male and some of these women who are a little bit younger, maybe perhaps a little bit more vulnerable. But I can understand, A, how the girls get sucked into his charisma, and knowing Babaji and just seeing his, just his own longing, his own frailty, I can definitely see why he would turn to that to fix his own wound. If it doesn't happen in this lifetime, I know Babaji knows this better than anybody else. He's going to be dealing with it next lifetime. Next lifetime, he may come back as an 18-year-old girl. Now that would be good. That would be yoga. Oh God, that would teach him.
Okay, we're on our way back from doing a weekend of interviews at Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York, and going to Bhagavan Dass's manager's house, Emily, where he lives. It's really his only home base, and it's in New York City.
So this is his room, right? Yeah, he has a few of those in here. So.
Did he slay the animal himself?
No. He just likes to buy those things. Yeah. Under here, that's the box.
He buys them.
Oh yeah, no, he loves to buy things. And his Kali collection. You know, he's a major Kali worshiper, so that's a big Kali. Here's Amma, Kali. He has a lot of Kali. This is holy water from Amma. I mean, I'm basically like a really glorified maid for him, but I don't mind because, you know, there's something really, you know, greater going on, and I accept that, which is like totally, you know, opposed to any of my like feminist ideologies or like anything that I would do for anyone else besides Bhagavan Dass. One time he went up to Massachusetts, and he was like, I found the perfect girl. She's like 19. She's going to tour with me. She's going to fold my clothes. She's going to serve me. She's going to like be your assistant, Emily. She's so great. She's going to help you. And she came here, and then like after 2 days, of course, they didn't really get along because they'd only met like for 2 hours upstate in Massachusetts. And then they sort of started not getting along very well, and he told me to buy her a one-way ticket to India, which I wouldn't do because I thought it was absurd. But anyway, we bought her a one-way ticket to Colorado. Have you met?
No.
She is a really nice woman that he met in Asheville, North Carolina. He did a reading for her, and she was like not that happy, and she really liked him. She was a yoga teacher, and he said, come with me, marry me, come on the road with me. And she did. She like sold her house. She had a house, she had a career, she sold everything, moved here with him, and they were together a few weeks, but then he met. And so the three of them were going to be like a team, like he was going to have his 2 wives, but that sort of never works out. His dream is to be like some kind of like, new age pimp, like that's his thing. All the girls
He told me he's the cosmic pimp last week.
Yeah, I'm sure, the cosmic pimp, yeah. And he expressed, and men love him because men love, he'll sort of tell men like, oh, she'll fuck you, she'll give you a blowjob. Like he talks to men in this way that no other men talk to them. Yeah. And so, like, he has a lot of male friends that really like the idea that all these girls are going to be around them and he's going to be giving them to each other for sex. Like this crazy, sexy thing. Like, all these guys, I can tell what he tells them about anyone. He'll tell people, oh, Emily will give you a blowjob. Like, she is so sexed up about everybody. And I can tell sometimes guys are like, hey, and I'm like, oh, great, Bhagavan Das. I mean, even though, like, he's, like, a very difficult person and he has this side of him where he can be mean and hostile and unpleasant and unkind, and he's like always shopping and buying things and creating all this havoc and trying to stir everything up, but at the same time he's just this incredibly, like, the main thing he likes to do is pray and do puja and worship, and it's really powerful because, like, he brings all this great energy to everything he touches, and everyone he touches, like, does better. Like, just from doing this film, you guys are gonna, I guarantee you're gonna, like, all these good things are gonna come to you, and all these good things will happen if you follow through and you don't get sick of him, you don't get mad at him, and you don't quit. Like, the only thing that's unique about my relationship to him that I can tell is that, like, I haven't quit or got sick of him or thrown him out, because since I've known him, that's what has happened to everyone.
Has anybody ever beat the shit out of him?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the whole thing about Bhagavan Das is that he's just, like, the funniest person. If you start to take him seriously and you start to, like, kind of trust exactly what he's saying, then you have all these problems.
Emily, you're basically just saying that Bhagavan Das basically is just the cosmic clown.
Yeah, he is. He's really funny. But the
and
thing
that's the deal, the way to deal with it.
He's better than any of these guys out there.
Yeah, he's a powerhouse chanter.
He's got, like, this amazing, like, octave range. He sings so beautifully. He comes out and he does the best concerts, and his talks are amazing,
I think this was mine.
Oh, really? Do you really?
I was looking for it.
No, I think that's ours. I'm not sure.
No, I think it's mine, actually.
Oh, do you really? That's pretty funny. I don't know.
Oh my God, I'd be looking. He took our Osho book, we think.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's here. I'm sure it's here. Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff here. What do you think about Bhagavan Das, Julie?
I don't like him.
She doesn't like him. She likes him. She just.
I don't like him.
Do you find that you have anything in common with Bhagavan Das? Bhagavan Das, when he goes into stores and does that I love you to everybody and worships everyone and all he sees is God, I've been doing it have I not been doing this for years? For years. I've been doing it for fucking years and it feels so right on.
If you only were allowed to say one thing, just one thing about this doc and about Bubba, what would it be?
I'd say don't throw out the holy man with the bathroom.
No, not again! I can't stand that line. If you say that goddamn line one more time, I'm gonna kill you.
Well, then just stop doing it and I won't have to say it. Just get in the water with him, man. The dirty water, the ecstatic water, it's all God, man. That's his point. You keep judging him because he likes 20-year-old girls. Listen, he's an old soul with a young psyche. So what?
Question though, the thing that I wonder about is whether, if he hasn't dealt with his psychological material, whether this move, this incredible, endless praising of the Divine Mother, it doesn't just become some sort of spiritual bypass maneuver.
I gotta tell you, I can only speak from my experience, and when I'm in that man's presence, I feel that he is connected to the Mother like no human I have ever encountered. And he opens up lines of inquiry, questions we need to ask. Who are we essentially? Why are we here? How do we find out who we are and why we're here? Everything he does brings us back to these fundamental questions. They're the premise questions. Here's an example of it for me. He's staying in my house. I notice him, he's gotten up and he's standing in the center of the kitchen with his back turned. And I come upon him and he's standing there very like he's, I don't know quite what he's doing. And I look to my right, and he has his like his schmeckel hanging out, and it's inside of my my measuring glass. It's inside my measuring glass.
His schmeckel.
His schmeckel, and he's urinating. He's urinating very quietly, like he's done this many times before. And he's urinating, and you know, it's almost filled. And I go, Bubba, you know, because I'm shocked. And then he goes, what? Like, there's something wrong with me. And he pulls the measuring glass down. He puts his back in his shorts, and then he just tosses it all into the sink. He washes it off. He puts it down, and he sits down. So I feel judgmental about this for a couple of weeks. And then I say to myself, you know, this is like the dark side of this like sensual quality of his that I love. Why don't I give it a try? Why don't I, instead of like judging it and criticizing it, why don't I go and like get an Evian bottle, because he does this too, put it beside my bed, and at night when I have to urinate in the Evian bottle. So I do. And it turns out that like I'm afraid that I'm like not a civilized conformist person or something if I do this. This is what comes up when I start to do it, and after I let that go, the thing that I'm afraid of, I actually realize I like it. I don't need to get up and go to the toilet every time I have to urinate. I can just urinate in the Evian bottle and go back to sleep. You know, so it's like if you play with your shadow a little bit, you play with the part of you that's judging someone else's shadow, sometimes you find that there's something in it on the other side. You know, he says the only way to it is through it, so.
That's nice. You can actually save some money on your bathroom. You can rent it out. You don't even need it anymore.
No, I don't need it. Now, well, I still... with Bhagavan Dass, you get so tapped into what really matters. You just stop caring about stupid things. That's what he does. It's like, who cares if the dishes are dirty when I'm really getting why the fire hydrant is God? You know, we're out there, we're walking, we're connecting to squirrels. I finally feel the squirrel. Do I care if the kitchen is dirty? I don't care. Do I care if he urinates in an Evian bottle? I don't care. That's it. He's a chaos machine. You know, Nietzsche said you must have chaos within to give birth to a dancing star. Well, Bhagavan Dass, he's a dancing star. And maybe one day I will be too, if I can have a little more chaos with him.
So I hear he's coming to stay with you again.
You didn't become a stockbroker.
Right.
You didn't become any number of other things that the world has to offer.
Well, I tried a lot of different things.
You did?
Yes, I did a lot of different things.
Yes.
I was...
Like what?
I sold insurance.
Really?
Yes, I was an insurance agent.
You know, it's funny, I'm just interrupting you for a moment. Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, Tibetan Buddhist teacher, said that the next Messiah was going to most likely be an insurance agent from New Jersey.
Uh-huh.
Are you from New Jersey?
No, I'm from Laguna Beach.
Okay. Oh,
well. Towards the end of his journey in the East, Bhagavan Dass married a woman named Bhavani and had a daughter, Soma. On their return to America, he became a kind of spiritual rock star. The adjustment to living in America, being a husband, a father, and a touring cult icon, was not easy for him. He began to party and use hard drugs, habits that stayed with him for the next 30 years of his life.
I was just on the rock star scene. We were jet setting around and staying with movie stars in Hollywood. And every time I went out on stage, there was 2,000 to 3,000 people there. I had my own chauffeur with a uniform on. I had a limo, back seat, tiger skin, would go in, sit down, groupies, party all night. A lot of fun. Had a lot of fun. But then there was the wife and the baby at home, suffering away. So it was difficult. It was difficult for me.
After 7 years in the East, spent meditating in nature, he was surrounded by people who treated him like a spiritual power object. as if he held the key to their journeys.
Everyone was sitting at my feet, and whose feet could I sit at? And the person I chose to sit at, his name was Chogyam Trungpa, and he was a Tibetan Lama who had come to America, and I chose him as my mentor. And he was a great womanizer and a great drunk. In fact, he was the drunk Buddha. He absolutely drank sake from the morning he woke up till he passed out at night. And here I was in an intimate relationship with him, sitting in the room with him, watching him smoke Marlboros, opening the window for him, taking his clothes off, pimping for him, bringing the girls to him, and receiving the secret ear-whispered teachings of the inner Tantra directly from his lips. Because there was no disguising anything. It was all naked reality. So in a way, he encouraged my debauchery, I think.
He also studied under Joya, a middle-class Jewish housewife from Queens, New York, who was revered as a spiritual channeler and who attempted to deal with his womanizing by renaming him Bhagavan Dick, separating him from his family, and locking him in her basement for 1.5 years to pray. In the mid-1970s, while still married to Bhavani, he fell in love with and impregnated another woman. She bore him a son, Mikio, and 1 year later, a daughter, Lalita. He now had 2 wives and 3 children and no money to pay the bills. He left the spiritual path and retreated from the limelight. He returned to calling himself Michael Riggs and cut off his long hair. He left his first wife, Bhavani, moved to Hawaii with his second wife and their 2 children, and worked as an Encyclopedia Britannica salesman at the Marine Corps base in Oahu, breaking company records in no time.
The thing is, nobody ever told me that Encyclopedia Britannica was hard to sell. Like, I didn't know it was hard to sell. I thought everybody wanted one. So I sold up a storm. I sold like 34 books one year. I was a national champion. It's like I was Rookie of the Year and the national champion for a year. And I knocked on doors. I worked at the Army bases. I sold at kiosks in all of the, in Diamond Head and all of the different booths, you know. I was a Britannica man. I had all the closes down. I listened to Zig Ziglar tapes all the time. All I read was Zig Ziglar books, closing books. I loved it. I was so happy. I made so much money. I think I made $10,000 one month. I made $15,000 another month. We got 3 dozen red stem, long stem roses from the president of Britannica. I was having dinner, Rolls Royce dinners. We were really happy. My wife was happy. I was happy.
While in Hawaii, he received word that his first wife had died of a cocaine overdose. His second marriage fell apart, and he returned to California alone and consumed with grief. This was the mid-1980s, and he was now in his 40s. On the verge of a breakdown, he had a powerful vision of Christ on the cross that eased his pain. He was saved and became a born-again Christian.
I was in the Assemblies of God Church for the next 3 years, going to church 4 times a week. I was a prayer warrior. I was praying for people. We were going out. I carried a Bible in my hand all the time. I would go up to people on the street. I would slam the Bible on their chest. I would say, "Do you know where you're going when you die? Do you know that you're going to go to heaven?" I was so into it. It was so funny, though. It was amazing. I'd go into Denny's with my Bible, and there'd be all these people sitting at the counter. I would sit down. I would slam the Bible down. Everybody would get up on both sides. 4 or 5 people would leave on that side. 4 or 5 people would leave on the other. I thought, Jesus is so powerful. All you have to do is put the Bible down, and people scatter. I was in such a relationship with Jesus, I tell you. I talked to Jesus all the time. I spoke to Jesus night and day. I woke up with Jesus, I went to bed with Jesus, I read the Bible. I listened to that really crummy Christian music all the time. That's all I listened to. I never listened to any other music but Christian music. I was deep into the church.
He studied to become a pastor, but while in church, he met and fell in love with an 18-year-old girl. He was kicked out of Bible college and the church. The failure of one more sales job and a love affair with yet another 18-year-old brought him into crisis again. This time, Neem Karoli Baba appeared to him in a vision and told him to return to being Bhagavan Das. He listened. He moved to Harbin Hot Springs in California and became their resident chanter and spiritual director, again living closer to the earth as he had in India. Eventually, he began touring again as Bhagavan Das, recording many discs and chanting throughout the world.
This is a tantric, way of looking at things. Huh? I'm changed. That's when you saw me last.
You feel different? How do you feel different inside
I
yourself?
just feel totally different. I feel a totally different level of, connectedness to the earth plane. It's totally different.
Yeah, more ground.
Yeah, a lot more ground. I'm the hungry mother. I am hungry to eat my children and devour the world.
Yeah, right on. Bubba?
What, honey?
Let's just talk a little bit about your fun-loving history. It's like Northampton. What happened in Northampton?
Got banned. I've been banned in all these yoga centers.
Why were you banned in Northampton?
Because I was flirting with a woman who owned the yoga center.
Okay.
And she was like about 48 years old. And then I did a reading for her, her yoga assistant who was 19.
Mm-hmm.
And we just hit it off and, I took her away. She left the center and so she banned me.
So you're banned from Northampton, Mass.
Yeah.
I bet you get banned often from places.
I do. I banned in Omega.
What happened at Esalen?
Oh, what happened at Esalen?
Yeah.
I just, I met this really amazing, 17-year-old girl who was like half naked.
All your stories seem to have similar starts.
They do. I know.
Similar ends.
Yeah. Urine is very, very sacred to Shiva. And it's part of the left-handed tantric path. We drink urine all the time. We love urine. I drink all the girls who I have sex with, I drink their urine. I say pee in a cup, and they pee in the cup, and then I drink it.
You have pictures in my house that you said you painted with a Q-tip.
Oh yeah, I have pictures, yeah.
And
yeah.
what was it painted from?
It's painted with menstrual blood.
Your girlfriend's menstrual blood?
Yeah.
Painted with a Q-tip?
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Why a Q-tip?
Because I couldn't find anything else.
And so you carry these paintings with you?
Yeah, I have them with me.
How big are they?
Big.
You travel with them?
Yeah, I've been traveling with them. They're too precious. I can't just,
Nice.
It's a traveling minstrel show.
So what's the relationship between spirituality and psychosis?
In psychosis, it's a very thin line between madness, and illumination.
When you describe yourself as a functioning schizophrenic, and you have
absolutely. I have described myself.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, like I live in two worlds at once. It's like I can be completely, in that, cosmic zone, and I can remember my zip code and my address. And you know what I mean? And I know where my wallet is, and I know where my house keys are.
But schizophrenia, I mean, that's not being just so connected to the cosmos. Schizophrenia means you're dissociative. You're split off.
Well, I live in both realms. It means living in completely two worlds at the same time.
Like a
You don't mean you've been diagnosed with schizophrenia?
I don't know what diagnosed is. I mean, how would that be? How would I be diagnosed by who?
Enough of the spirit talk already.
Right.
Do you want to say blessings?
Yeah,
sir?
yeah. Is this pig?
It makes you really horny. Pigs are super horny. You know they have like 1 hour orgasms?
Come on.
This is not true.
It is true.
I want to know who researched this.
Pablo, have you?
I read it.
Baba, have you ever been with
I read
pig?
a lot. I read a lot.
And what name were you born with?
Michael.
Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Like the angel.
Mikhail, yeah.
Middle name?
My first name is Kermit. Kermit, like the frog. You know, it began around 98. It takes a long time to come into manifestation.
What began in 98?
I mean, I got the message, I heard the talking yoni. The yoni spoke to me. And the yoni said to me, "You really like to use me. It's okay. You can always use me. I will always come to you because you like me so much. You love me so much. I will always come to you, but I will kill you. I will destroy you." So I left it.
You left what?
I left the experience of, mounting this beautiful, 19-year-old girl.
In 1998?
Yeah.
But you planted a powerful seed for transformation that night, right? In 98?
Exactly. I planted a powerful seed because I surrendered to her feet, and I didn't mount her. I didn't do it. I didn't use her yoni that night. I worshipped it. She'd already come 2 or 3 times anyway. I've been eating her out for like an hour and a half.
And you were freed?
I was freed, but the freedom took years to come into connection because I was still sabotaging it.
How were you sabotaging?
I was sabotaging it with alcohol and drugs.
What were you afraid of?
Feeling the suffering of humanity. I can't take the ocean of suffering.
And worshiping the yoni brings you into that suffering?
No, not at all.
You're saying that your relationship to the yoni changed in 1998?
Yeah.
Okay. How did it change?
Well, I got the message, but it took me years to bring the message into fruition.
So you fled the message?
Well, no, I didn't flee the message. The message shifted. I shifted. I had to experience the results of more of my negative karma. I had to experience the sharp wheel of weapons returning upon me. Can you see your face okay or not? Is it too covered with the leaves? There we go. You can see it now.
So right now I want to smash Bhagavan Dass's face in. When we were driving in the car down to the yoga studio, there was like this moment at like Young and Dundas when I almost smashed him right in the head. I had this like vision of his head hitting the side glass in the car because we were at the house and he was changing into his dhoti, and so he took his clothes off with my beautiful partner Tarni, and I could see him and feel him holding the nakedness because he had the dhoti ready to go. It was just all he had to do was like that, and he didn't. It took a long time, and when she finally turned back away from the kitchen, he was still standing there like that, trying to show off his genitalia or whatever and flash her. And then she just looked. There you go. And then he closed it. He closed it up. And then we got in the car, and then she made the mistake of saying to him, "You're a very seductive person." And he thought that was like he was in this alpha male competition with me. So that meant like that, he had my woman. He was winning the competition. I could totally feel it. And then he started to talk even raunchier and look right into her eyes, and he was talking about pussy, and he was talking about dripping pussy, and he was talking a lot of pussy talk. And as this was happening, and she's very innocent and trusting,
And then I could feel my anger building to this crescendo where I was starting to feel like I was going to get into an accident, and I almost hit the truck in front of us. He's staying here till like tomorrow morning, and I know he's not going to stop, and I just think I'm going to have to smash him. That's what I think is going to happen.
Okay, this is my altar. Favorite picture of Amma.
Amma, the hugging saint?
Yes, it was right here, and she's dressed up like Kali.
Like Kali, and Bhagavan Das is a Kali worshipper. So what happened? He came up with
We
you?
were having a conversation, and I was showing him my favorite picture of Ma, and he agreed that it was also his favorite picture, but now it's gone. But I understand why it's gone, because I saw him take it
Yeah.
and put it in his stuff.
He took it at the same time as you talked with him, or at a later time?
No, later I saw him come down the stairs, and he had it in between his fingers, and I saw him put it somewhere in his stuff. So I kind of want to take it back.
Okay. He put it in his bag, or?
I don't know exactly where.
I mean, do you think that, what do you think his attitude towards this is?
Well, I think some part of him just believes that everything belongs to him. Like everything's just kind of all one.
Really? And so if I take his computer, you think he won't have a problem with that?
I don't know.
Oh, I think he will. I think what's really happening.
Maybe it's just a one-way street with him, you know?
Yeah, I have a feeling it is a one-way street, and that what we're just talking about here is theft.
Oh, this is his computer.
Yeah.
On it?
Yeah. Well, I just like to see how he responds to that, and then we'll have the showdown. I'm gonna help you find it.
Because I think he did slip it in between. Oh, here, honey, I found it.
Hold on.
Busted.
Busted.
You see, we're being churned in the karmic mill. We're just going to get finer and finer. It's like a little more humility. You still think you're somebody. One more time around the wheel. There we go again. A little smoother now. Yeah, that was good. Took that edge off, right? Huh? Right? That hurt, didn't it? Yeah, good.
Why are you so angry?
It was very hurtful. It's very hurtful. You invite somebody into your home. You take care of him. You do his laundry for him. You know? And he doesn't give a shit. He's all in his narcissism. He's a total megalomaniac. He talks about you for 2 or 3 seconds, and he's back to himself. He makes a move on your girlfriend. He steals her most precious picture, which to me is talk about, you know, spiritual toxicity. I mean, that's really the height of it. You know, it's not funny. It's not funny when you steal from your friends, when you try to sleep with their girlfriends. It's not heightened. Polygamy is not some healthy thing under these circumstances. It's some fucked up pattern. It's some unresolved neurotic issue. It's the mommy who never loved me and kicked me out of the house, and I know that I can't live like a human being, so I'm just going to go in there and stir up the pot for civilized good people, because that gives me a little bit of a feeling that I exist.
About 3 months ago, I read Be Here Now, and I really, really liked it, and I fell in love with Bhagavan Das. And then my parents got me an astrology reading with him. And so I had that yesterday, and then I came here tonight for the first kirtan I've ever done, and it was amazing. He gave me a lot of presents, like his book. It's Here Now, Are You?
I want another chance to talk to her and hold her hand. I want to sing with her. I want her to sing with me on the movie, okay? Bring her outside. We'll do an outside sing. I want to do some singing on the movie.
Okay.
That's what. Yeah, of course she can sing. I believe it. Listen, I told her she could sing, she could sing.
Could I ever see myself being a Bhagavan Das groupie and following him around? Well, he told me to come sing with him. So, yeah, totally.
It was one thing to hear him talk about his love for young women. It was quite another to see it in action. I could feel the underpinnings of my faith weakening as I saw the reality of what was happening. I hearkened back to a story he told me when we were shooting the documentary at my house. Something I had swept under the carpet in my desire to believe in him, except this time the story landed differently.
I was 18 years old, and I met a couple of Egyptian guys in a coffee shop in Cairo because I was looking for hashish. And they said, oh, we have hashish, come back to our house. And they had a guitar. So I smoked a little hashish, I was playing guitar, and all of a sudden I turned around and this girl starts walking towards me wearing only her underwear and sits in my lap. And I'm like, whoa. I was like, you know, and she was a 13-year-old Egyptian whore that these guys had ordered in, like a pizza. Yeah, eat it fast while it's hot. And it was, I got to go first because I was the virgin. But it was a very traumatic experience because I was only with her for about 15 minutes and they were banging on the door because she wouldn't kiss me. I guess kissing is really serious, you know? What about me? 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 What about me?
I know that, and this is something that I don't even think he knows, but there are many mothers around the satsang for Neem Karoli Baba that don't want their little girls around him. They're really afraid of that. So, can we cut for a second?
What about me? What about me? What about me? Bhagavan Das actually means, you know, Bhaga means yoni. It's the vagina of the woman. And Van means Lord. So it really means Lord of the yoni, which seems a very appropriate name for me.
And then I came into reality. Where had I gone? I drove him downtown right after Teo told him that she wasn't going to Europe with him on his next chanting tour. He was all rejected and angry, and then he started cursing her. Why should I take a young girl on tour with me and pay for her if she's not going to spread her legs? What about service? What does she think? I'm going to serve her without getting served back? When I heard that come out of his mouth, I felt absolutely insane inside. In one way, so hurt by this man who I had come to trust, and on the other, violently enraged by his treatment of this young girl. I felt like a missile went off in my head as I imagined ways to injure him.
As I cry.
So this is a bioenergetic cube. Bioenergetics is a body-centered psychotherapy. I studied it for a few years. And I went out of my way today. I haven't had this cube in my house for a lot of months, but after I dropped off Bhagavan Das, I felt like I needed it. I don't want all this anger that's inside of me to hang around and toxify my body. I'm going to just express some of my anger on the cube. I've taped his pictures to this so I can stay connected to who I'm angry at. Oh, you fucking bastard. Come to my fucking house. Steal my girlfriend's pictures. You fucking thieves. Shakti, pretend you're fucking helping her. You're a fucking selfish fucking asshole. Get off this fucking godforsaken fucking earth, you fucking animal. It's the worst crime of all. Pretending you care about people in life. Just take a break. Whew. Fucking asshole. Whew.
With a longing for your love.
Opinions mean nothing. Right? That hurt, didn't it? Yeah, good. People get the guru they deserve.
Bhagavan, He Bhagavan, He Bhagavan, He Bhagavan, He Bhagavan, He Bhagavan.
He's like a storm that just moves through existence and he just destroys everything around him. But it's a kind of creative destruction because, you know, it's like you present yourself to him, you're like, oh, I want you to be my guru. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll destroy you. You know, it's like very Kali-esque.
You get everything you want. You want to know what you want? What you have is what you want.
That's bullshit. Fuck that.
Your consciousness, who you're with, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your life situation, everything in your life is exactly what you wanted.
Shit.
He's a giant man who on some level doesn't believe that he has a right to exist. But instead of going into therapy or going into some place where he can begin to deal with that, he just perpetuates his problem. I mean, that's just what he does, you know, and he pushes everybody away from him that could possibly help him because he doesn't have the courage to deal with what's inside of him. I think he really is on he's an old soul with a baby psyche. And not only a baby psyche, but a nasty baby psyche.
Well, I gave my head, I tipped over the apple cart, terrorized the house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I do know what
Made
you mean.
everybody cry.
Yeah.
I did my thing.
You did your thing. That's your job.
It's my job,
It's your job.
I mean, Trungpa said, the job of the guru is to insult you.
He destroys everybody's life. But, in a way, well, that's what they wanted. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gotten involved with him.
He challenges us, and he rides this wave. He rides this wave. I'm a tornado, Jeff, that goes through people's lives and forces them to deal with their demons. And sometimes that's true. And if you're a person who really needs that, he's your guy. If you want to get your life smashed against the rocks in all kinds of demonic and strange ways, this is your guy. But his intention in doing it is not pure. It is just a consequence of his fucked upness.
Our Weekend with Bhagavan.
Our Weekend with Bhagavan. Yes.
Holy crap. Okay, where do we start?
Is this a comedy or a Greek tragedy? When he was here and was talking about, I don't know whether it's what the form of the relationship is going to be with Teo, and I made it very clear that it wasn't going to happen sexually, and Teo was also very clear. She said, I don't want anything to do with him sexually. That's just gross. He's 60 years old. And after she made that clear also, he said, you know what? I don't think it's going to work out. It seemed to me really clear that he was saying, well, if I'm not going to have sex with her, I don't want her around. It's not going to be helpful. And I got really angry. I ended up sending him the most vicious and hateful email I've ever sent anybody with, and I just felt this, because I had felt this huge rage inside of me, saying, how can you be so transparently predatory? And he sent back an email that essentially said, well, you really don't know what it's like to be me. You don't know how many projections I've had to work with. And this is another projection. And it made sense to me, actually, that was true. All that rage was my stuff. It had nothing to do with him. He hadn't actually hurt me, hadn't hurt Teo, hadn't hurt anybody. And I was left with a real teaching moment of how easily my rage was triggered and how powerful it was. I felt consumed by it, to the point that I would try to verbally destroy this man. And afterwards I found a place of love. I have no other word for it. That he really softened my heart. He's completely honest. He's one of the only human beings I've ever met who is so completely honest, without guile, without any attempt at manipulating reality.
What I find so interesting and compelling about Bhagavan Das is that he's honest about his, about the bad stuff. Mm-hmm. He's honest about, if he wants to have sex with one of our daughters, he would say that. He's not sneaky.
Mm-hmm. It made me realize that what happens with him, that he has done so much work on killing his ego, that what's left is a space for everyone to project their stuff onto him, like a mirror. It seems that everybody thinks at first that they're reacting to him in his personality. But everyone I've spoken to who's had this projective experience realizes that in fact that it's their own stuff, if they're honest with themselves. He's quite good at poking a person where they're most vulnerable and in pain, and knowing exactly in a pretty specifically psychic way how to bring that up and what the specific issues are, And he brings up all of the unresolved tensions and invites and encourages people to project those feelings onto him, so that a person can be left with the echo of it. I would go out of my way to invite Bhagavan Das back into our home again and have the same apple cart upset. How to tell the difference between the benevolent destroyer and the malevolent destroyer? The results.
The results.
I felt so ashamed for believing in Bhagavan Das. Was this guy just another in a long line of spiritual teachers who hustled women in the name of God? So many women go on spiritual quests because they're disappointed by their fathers. Men with spiritual authority who prey on the young and vulnerable, who use their guru status to get into their pants. I felt sickened. Is that all this was? I felt deeply confused. I went back and forth between anger at him, anger at myself, and something deeper, a real sadness, a heartbreak that shook me to the core. I needed help figuring this out. I decided to seek out Ram Dass, the man who had written Be Here Now, and whose own journey was intertwined with Bhagavan Das from their days in India together. Ram Dass had recently had a stroke, but this courageous spiritual warrior was still kicking. I flew all the way from Toronto to his home in Maui to interview him.
So when he refers to himself as O Guru, it's okay.
I don't think it's okay. Because the guru is somebody that you attach to and will take you all the way to God. And I don't see that Bhagavan Das or me could.
Well, Wilbur's model, he talked about all the various aspects of a person and said that some can be very heightened and some completely regressed, and they all can exist in the same person, Yeah, I think of him as like an old soul with a young psyche, It's like, is it possible can this all exist? I guess it can, it does. There it is.
I don't think he's an old soul. I know I don't think of this an old soul. He'd be self-conscious about his behavior. You may thrill to Bhagavan Das's singing. That means his inside is showing. And that's mirroring your inside. And you say, Das, I want to Das this person because this is happening to me. But before Das is of the place in him, and you don't Das the whole being.
That's the God transference. We do that, right? And then we get super disappointed, and we have to look in the mirror and say, why was I so disappointed? He never said he was God. I have no reason to believe he was God. He just had a certain part that called out to me.
That's right.
And that's that. Is it possible, when this cyclone comes into our lives, as he came into my life, that he really is doing all of these tornado-like things, like Kalima, with the intention? That's where I am too. the effect.
Intention is completely. If he had that intention, just spreading the joy, I think it would be a different story.
I just want to talk to you just a bit about, some people talk about Bhagavan Das as sort of a necessary symbol of the wild person, the freedom-loving, I'll do whatever I want, that he somehow represents that part of the collective unconscious that wants to go wild in all of us, that wants to be unshackled, that wants to get out of our head and do whatever we want to do. I mean, is there some benefit to having this kind of a being around us all the time? Is he a symbol of freedom in some way?
Well, he's shackled by his own desires, so he's not a symbol of freedom. He's a symbol of external freedom, but not internal freedom. If he were both, that would be what you're talking about.
But what if we go to the next level? I'm with you on that, and say maybe in fact he is honoring his soul's path and serving a purpose just like the Rinpoches. He just doesn't know that he is, simply because he embodies this wild thing that some of us need to grow from. The fella in Toronto, he came into the house, the whole scene with the daughter, then he starts to weep and cry because he's cracked open by this man's wildness. There's a lion in the house, right? He needed a lion in the house. So, only soul knows whether it's honoring its karma. I don't know if you're honoring your karma, only you can tell me. It appears to be madness to think that this destructive force could be honoring a soul path, but
it's down to intent or motive. It's not honoring your karma. He's living out his karma, but where he's honoring it as karma, I don't...
You come back to intention.
Yeah.
And I totally don't trust his intention. But I'm stuck on this feeling that perhaps it's true that some people on this planet, their karmic path is to be a destroyer with a bad intention in order to take the rest of us. Maybe in our resistance. Well, you see, that's where I get... I mean, my struggle is he talks a lot about... He basically talks... He kind of gets off on being able to upset the apple cart of people with stable structures. I see this as a bit of like a homeless guy who just feels like he can't ground himself in the world, so he's going to get a little ego boost by stirring up the pot a little. But then I say, well, even if all of that, even if that's true, and you're not saying it's true, but even if I feel that that's true, does it really matter? I mean, when he sits down to chant, he's an excellent door opener. And when he talks about the culture in his talks, at his Nada Yoga workshops, when he can pull his narcissism out of it a bit, I think he's really right on. He has a lot of wisdom and a body of experience. I mean, the question is, does it really matter? Does how he behaves in his personal life really matter in terms of how we look at him as a Upu Guru, as a door opener, as a helper?
I think that the whole ball of wax matters. There are many men and women who are presenting themselves as gurus in the West, and they have a flaw, and that flaw matters. You have to be able to justify your actions on every plane.
But he does admit, I mean, maybe this is part of the game, but when he's on stage, he talks about how he's a functioning schizophrenic. He acknowledges that he's a messed up 6-year-old. I mean, he really admits that he's a mess. And somehow that, I'm touched by that, and maybe I'm tricked by that, I don't know. I mean, as long as somebody acknowledges their...
Well, it depends why they acknowledge it. And why they acknowledge it in order to trick you, that's not good enough.
like they acknowledge it, so I'll go, oh, he's so honest,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
they've got me.
Yes.
Master salesman.
Yes.
Right.
He's a salesman of Bhagavan Das.
No, that really feels right.
Yeah.
That really feels right. You still feel love for Bhagavan Das's soul?
Yeah.
And how about his incarnation?
I don't like his incarnation.
Much had come clear in my time with Ram Dass. First, I was getting a clearer sense of what this guru trip was all about. Although it's always tempting to project God onto someone else, really all these spiritual teachers are doing is talking about the things they need to talk about to get themselves into alignment. In a sense, gurus are just travel agents for the particular trip that they need to go on. If their trip calls out to you, then you go on it for a while. But don't imagine them perfected beings. Just see them as little pop-ups on the path. They remind you of something, they call out to your knowing, then you extract the lesson and move on. I had a clear vision of Bhagavan Das as a one-winged bird, sprinting for the sky, but then crashing back to earth. When I met him, I thought he was this great weaver of the emotional and the spiritual, but I feel I was wrong.
Darkness like the night, I see your eyes of light. Oh, call
He felt more to me like a spiritual bypasser, someone who turns to spirit in an attempt to avoid the pain that lives inside him. But of course, knowing this doesn't explain my part in it, and it doesn't resolve my own confusion. After seeing Ram Dass in Hawaii, I didn't speak to Bhagavan Das for 8 months. But the crazy thing is that the feelings of attachment I had for him wouldn't leave me. I didn't know what I wanted from this guy, but I wanted something. An apology, an admission, something. I just knew I had to see him again, to confront this thing, to figure out my role in this.
You hold the sword, oh Kali, set me free.
Broken bone, 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 all over the ground. Broken bone, 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 everywhere the sound of broken bone, bone, bone. Everyone brought down, everyone brought down. Guru bless me again, come back Guru bless me again, and I'll come back and bless you again. Come back Guru bless me again, and I'll come back and bless you again.
I would have one more chance to clarify the lesson when we flew him back to Toronto to shoot some final footage. I felt a genuine aversion to hanging with him, but something inside told me that I needed one more spin around the karmic wheel with him.
You left the candle on.
I know I did.
Beautiful.
I'm trying to burn your house down. Why do you blow the candle out?
I don't want you to burn my house. I don't need that kind of hard-ass lesson, all right? I've learned all my hard-ass lessons. Now I want things smooth. Don't burn my house down. So, Bob, what's with you and the Jews? Like, seriously speaking, why do you have so many Jewish people around you?
Because I was Anne Frank in my last birth.
You really believe that?
Absolutely. I don't.
How do you
it's
feel
a fact.
that? How do you know
It's
that?
a fact.
How do you know that to be true?
Because I'm, psychic intuitive. I'm,
And you've had
I've expanded
hits?
consciousness. I went to her house in Amsterdam.
And what? And
I knew it was my house. I knew where the bookshelf was.
you knew where the tree was? The tree she used to look at outside of her
Yeah, I
window?
knew where the tree. I knew where the bookshelf was. The door behind the bookshelf. The secret room.
When were you born in relation to her death?
I was born 2 weeks after she died.
But look, you don't look like a Jew. I mean,
Well, I
you look
look
like a Jew, but physically you
No,
don't
but
really.
I came in. She was like a little skinny Jewish girl, and I came in the body of a big Nazi, a big, giant, powerful German Nazi. See. So, and with this great, powerful male body, I was able to do all the things that Anne couldn't do.
To live freely, the way that she couldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So you're right. So you're bringing her soul back into counterbalance.
Exactly.
By being the wild being.
Exactly. And and that's why have I been worshiping little girls my whole life?
Right.
To worshiping her.
Right. That
I've been
within her
worshiping Anne
wasn't
Frank.
able to be worshipped properly.
Exactly.
Because of her circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. And so basically, my form of God is the little virgin, like the 10-year-old virgin girl. And that's who Anne Frank was.
Right.
And she was a saint.
Right.
And that's why I'm a spiritual being in this lifetime.
So you think all the Jews on some like
They
sensory
know that.
level, they just know that you were Anne Frank?
They
in
know
the
I'm
previous
the
life?
Anne. Yeah, exactly. Well, on some intuitive level.
It's as possible as all of this is possible, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm telling you, it is what it is. I
No,
know
but
it's
that's a
true.
deep knowing. That's a very subtle and deep knowing. Not
It is.
everybody can come to that
Yeah.
clarified knowing as to what, not even the person, but what kind of being they were in their last lifetime, right?
I know, and that's why, in a way, I was born famous, too. Because I was sort of famous in my last life.
Right.
I mean, I got a lot of merit going through that concentration camp.
Right.
I accrued a lot of merit, and and who'd want to be born? And it was really hard to get me to come into this birth. I almost killed my mother. I almost died. It was a tough birth.
Right.
Who'd want to come in after an ordeal like that?
Right.
Huh?
What did you have to look forward to?
Exactly.
Right.
Right. I got thrown on a stainless steel table the moment I was born, and they cut my dick off. That was like, welcome to the world.
Right.
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 Who's looking forward to that experience?
Hey, but seriously, if this is really your truth, right? Maybe all of the drug, alcohol, all that stuff was because you were trying to avoid the real, because you knew the real to be such a painful place from your previous incarnation.
Exactly.
I love it.
That's right.
That makes sense to me.
I was going for the float, man.
See, people think it's all psychological.
Over the course of the 2 days, Bhagavan Das and I spent some real time together. I played off of him, witnessing myself in relation to him, making the interaction personal to me. Like, where does it live in me? I knew that I'd been no accidental tourist in these encounters. As we ate and as we walked, I played the projection game. Okay, he's reflecting something back at me. What is it? Why did I summon this reflection into my life? Who am I in this? And who is this in me?
I like this table. This is great.
We could put it in one of your storage units.
Yeah. Yeah, I could. That would be really nice, man.
You want us to take the table?
Yeah, I like
Let's
that.
take the table.
Yeah, I want to take the
Take it on the plane with you to Philly.
I like it.
We'll put it in the storage unit, way in the back of the one in. Where do you got one in Pennsylvania or somewhere?
Yeah.
Hey, you got a storage unit in Pennsylvania.
I got a couple. Huh? What?
Oh, there is another leg. Let's get.
I don't want the leg. No, I don't want the
No,
legs.
he likes the hobbly table.
No, I'm gonna knock that leg off. I want to just use
What are you gonna use
the
it
wooden.
for?
Just sit on it.
Oh.
Like a seat.
It was so clear that Bhagavan Das was like a depth charge for me, a whole laboratory of self-reflection. He felt so deeply familiar, like I had known this guy for such a long, long time. In his presence, a whole range of emotions, present and past, floated into my awareness. At times I felt enraged with him, but then watched myself pull back from expressing it. I'd somehow imagined that I would confront him on camera on this trip. Something frightened me. I could easily express my rage towards him in his absence, but in his presence, the best I could do was sarcasm and passive-aggressive remarks.
Tragic modern life. We're all just so separated. Get tired and they won't focus. It's sad.
There was definitely a spiritual aspect to this. I had bought into the whole anger is not spiritual nonsense that had plagued the New Age. But there was so much more. Where was this fear coming from? It was strange. I was both revolted by this guy and then completely drawn to him. I wanted to call him out on his hustle and then help to heal his wounds. Below my own armor was this deep sadness, but before I could feel into it, anger would flood me. I found it so much easier to feel the anger than the pain down below. I dodged and weaved with my own truth so as not to express it. In a way, I was just like them. I could put on a mask with the best of them, cover up my core emotions, hide my real feelings so no one would know what was happening inside. Like many trauma survivors, I had developed the capacity to adapt my personality in order to survive. I wanted to get away from the aggressor, but I somehow needed him.
I feel a lot different about a lot of different things. You know, which,
How long have you been clean and sober for now?
2 years.
2 solid years?
2 solid years. No alcohol, no pot. You know, no wild sex with young girls.
Oh, a little.
A little.
2 years, you said.
No, 2 years I haven't. Yeah, 2 years. I've been off everything. It all is like a package for me. It's like a package deal.
And how does the moment feel differently now?
I feel like I have that weight taken off of me. I'm not looking to explore it anymore. It's like a fully explored realm.
Right. Time for a new groove.
Yeah, it's a new groove. You know, Papa's got a brand new bag.
And one fine day, I walked into the truth.
Sad. My whole childhood is like standing on the curb, watching my dad drive off to work. You know, feeling this terrible longing of like, I want to go with you. I think we're really missing. We don't have a good role model for the children with a father. It's very sad. You know? And it just kind of repeats the cycles.
It's a rare thing.
Yeah.
I was walking beside him when I had actual memory flashes of my father in one of my childhood homes. And there it was, so obvious that I couldn't believe that I'd missed it. It was like the two of them had morphed into the same person. My father was also a tall and charming man who had very little capacity to handle economic reality, and also a delusional man who imagined himself a high spiritual being. Like Bhagavan Das, he too had a spiritual name. It became immediately clear I was living out my father stuff with Bhagavan Das. I'd done a lot of work in my therapy around my mother, but nowhere near enough with my father. His economic irresponsibility had caused us great suffering, moving from place to place, never feeling safe anywhere. And he had physically terrified me, breaking my finger, beating me, kicking me so savagely in the head one night that I thought I was going to die. He even washed me in the bath as a child a number of times after I was too old for it to be appropriate.
Oh, the soul, oh, Kali set me free.
Yeah, that's the problem, you guys. There's no dad.
Yeah, it's not the mother. The mother's,
mother's always home.
There's lots of mother. Mother's always
Mother's
home.
always home.
There's no father.
Dad's gone.
There's no really grounded, solid men whose hearts are open. And that's the hardest thing to find.
Yeah, exactly.
Men who ascend with both feet on the ground. You just don't find that almost anywhere. Yeah. We've been here before, Bubba.
You and I?
Yes, we have.
So let's go get a cup. Huh?
Let's do it.
Okay. That's a great table.
It's perfect for you. You can sit on it.
Yeah,
Put your
we can
keister on it.
It's as though I was giving family and father another try with Bhagavan Das. Between the sense of familiarity and his mentoring, he was similar enough to my father to stand in for him. They even smelled alike. Interestingly, I had always defended my father as a child, both at home and in the world, building him up to be someone great, pedestaling him. I so needed a role model, and I had always felt afraid to fully fight against him. He was larger than me and had violent energy lurking just below the surface. My passive attempts at standing my ground with Bhagavan Das were somehow an opportunity to express my anger and heal those wounds. And I suppose, to finally learn how to stop hiding my truth under a bushel of shame. To finally learn how to throw the so-called holy man out with the bathwater. Compared to how I was when I met him, like he was Big Daddy teacher, I had come a long way. But seeing my trauma didn't make it disappear. I still couldn't confront him directly.
I never got that glass of water.
I left it for you on the table.
Did you? I never drank it.
You know, all I can do is like a
I
devotee,
understand.
put it in front of you and hope for the best.
I
That's
know.
all I can do.
I know. It's hard, man.
It's hard to be a devotee to a man who
know it
won't
is.
drink the water.
It is. It is. Devotee school. That's probably what I'm running.
You know, I don't want to.
Devotee
I don't
school.
really want to attend that school.
I know.
I think you should be my devotee, actually.
Really?
I think it'd be good for you.
Uh-huh.
You know, there's things I need done that I can't get to.
Like what?
And I think you could get. Oh, there's like people I need to sue for my business.
To sue?
There's a book I need to finish. I can't get to it because I'm so busy making this movie about you.
Really?
I think you could do this stuff for me.
What's happening with the book?
I'm finished the second draft. I'm going to finish it this winter.
Really?
While you're in India.
And this is just so the nature of repressed emotions. It's as though my unhealed feelings towards my father summoned this journey with Bhagavan Das in order to be brought out of hiding. Lessons are a messy business. They just keep tripping us up until we get it. Clearly, I have a lot more work to do around my father wound. And if I resist it, I'll surely find myself summoning this kind of relationship back into my life again in an effort to heal. And there was a spiritual lesson in all of this, but not the one I expected. At the start of this journey, I was living in the illusion of my own solidity. I was fooling myself. I too was a spiritual bypasser, turning to God as an escape from my unresolved pain body, looking for spirituality out there rather than right here, in my real life, in my embodied experience. The truth is that I couldn't be here now because I was still in the then, the power of then. And now I know why I was so attracted to ungrounded ideas of spirituality. After my childhood, I needed the kinds of spirituality that would keep me from feeling what lay below the surface. It felt easier to believe that I only had to ask the universe for what I wanted, and it would manifest. That I could find enlightenment by detaching from my feelings, and that by pretending that it was all good, it would make it good, even if it wasn't good at all. But this just perpetuated my issues. I was confusing self-avoidance with enlightenment. It was one thing to tap into mystical realms, as I had in moments around Bhagavan Das, but quite another to sustain that deeper awareness. If anything, This journey showed me that spirituality and the emotional life cannot be separated. My repressed emotions are not illusions to detach from. They're actually unresolved spiritual lessons, the karmic field for my soul's expansion. If I want to grow in my relationship to God, I have to drop right back down into my body, raise the feelings from their burial ground, and do the real work to heal my heart. In its own way, my journey with Bhagavan Das had taught me what I most needed to learn: that spirituality actually lives inside of our bones and not in our efforts to escape them. Here is where we heal. Here is where we explore the mystery. Here is where real spirituality begins. There's nowhere to go, just here.
What did Ramachandra Parite Sharanam